kay Bongbong Marcos ay yung mga malalaking negosyante.
Who
Sila,
unfortunately have a lot of political influence, and that's a sad thing, di ba? That's
exactly,
precisely why may impact sila,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Now, balikan ko na, so paano ba talaga pinatay? Yun yung unang tanong mo kanina eh. And this is also interesting, no? Kasi pag tinignan mo talaga to, mapapag-aralan mo kung paano yung betrayal talaga eh, no, sa mga manggagawa. Let's go back, for example, a year ago. A year ago, ipinasa ng Senate yung kanilang 100 pesos. Everybody celebrated. Maliit yan, pero that's better than nothing, right? So, having said that, nagpa-file kami ng version ng namin sa House amounting to 150. Other groups filed a bigger amount, no? So, hiniring, isang taon mahigit. Itong si Fidel Nograles, yung Labor Committee natin, na ang hearing lang siya ng hearing, pero obviously dinidribble lang niya. Paulit-ulit ang usapan namin.
Wait.
Paulit-ulit ang mga argumento.
There's another Cheese Escudero. Like,
This is worse.
mas maganda bang kilay niya? Who has the better?
Mas malala ito. No? Mas
Mas
malala
makapal
ito.
ang kilay.
Hindi. Mas makapal ang mukha. So, grabe to. Tapos ano talaga siya talaga yung wala siyang sasabihin sa'yo. No? Basta nakangiti lang siya sa'yo, tatangutan mo siya, pero hindi mo alam kung naintindihan ka niya o iniintindi ka niya. Ganong klase ito. No? One of the worst chair ng Labor Committee that I've ever seen. No?
Politiko nga.
Anyway, ay grabe, malala talaga to. At mamaya kukwento ko pa sa gaano pa siya kalala talaga. No? So, denribol niya ng denribol. At ito, talaga mainis ka dito. Every time mag-hearing kami, tatanungin namin siya, oh, kung, kailan na ba pwede ba natin to ilalabas bilang committee report? Naku, wala pang go signal sa taas. Think about that. Think about that. Wala pang go signal sa taas. But that's mind-boggling. You're the committee. You're supposed to be reporting dun sa taas. Bakit mo hinihintay yung command ng taas? So, that was the problem. Clearly, ayaw ni Speaker ipagalawin ito for for more than a year. Ayaw niyang pagalawin to. We've been asking for a dialogue sa kanya, no, all that time hindi siya nakipag-dialogue sa amin until dumating ang April this year. No? What happened April this year? Bumagsak ang kanyang rating sa panahon na papasok ng election. He got so worried. And then more importantly, may parating na napakalalaking mga mobilization ng INC, may mobilization ng mga pro-impeachment, no, na marami pang mga kaguluhan nangyari doon, pero the thing is malalaki yung mga rallies na parating at obviously nag-worry siya, kaya nag-agree siya to meet with us. And it was
It
very
became
interesting because
suddenly politically convenient. Parang ganun.
exactly, no, tapos nagpatawag siya ng meeting at tinanong niya anong posisyon at doon lumabas yung figure na 200 pesos, no. um, na doon sa debate namin, oh, sige, gawin natin yan. Pasa natin 200. Marami pa nas nakakatawa diyan kasi kinabukasan, no, eto kita mo dito, makikita yung medyo kapalpakan talaga nung committee chair o whoever it is na nagkamali dito. Imagine niyo ang naka-file na bill namin ay across the board. 150 pesos across the board. Meaning, again, everyone gets it, right? And then sabi, o de, sige, i-adjust na lang natin yan, ang i-adapt natin 200. Ang ginawa lang nila, yung particular bill na yon na final ni Raymond Mendoza, no, the Deputy Speaker, na across the board, binura lang nila yung 150, ginawang 200 across the board. Yun yung ipinasa, no, sa plenary on a second reading nung April. Siyempre, pag hit niya sa dyaryo kinabukasan, umalma talaga lahat ng mga employer, no? Grabe to, across the board to, hindi to minimum wage increase lang, umalma sila. Alam mo ba, bigla na lang kinorek niya, error yan, kinorek. Ganun lang. Basta kinorek na lang. Hindi ko nga alam pa paano yung naging
Ay,
proseso
trial
ng
balloon ba
pag-correct
yan?
nun.
What's going on? Trial balloon?
Hindi. It's an actual error, no? Talagang inilabas nila na 200 across the board. And then
Right.
when
Nagpanic.
it dawned on them na hindi pala nila nabura yung across the board at hindi nila napalitan yun ng minimum wage increase, nagpanic sila. Tapos siguro, 'di ba sa mga lumang tao katulad ko, ini-snowflake na lang. Hindi naman yata ginagamit na yun ngayon. So, ganun lang, binura lang yon. So, okay. So, sabi namin, nung kausap namin siya, konti na lang ang panahon. Speaker, paano ba to? Nag-commit siya. No, nag-commit siya talaga sa amin, sa harapan naming lahat. Basta bago matapos ang 19th Congress, ipapasa namin 'to, no? Papasa natin on second reading next week, sabi niya at that time, the last week na ng session nila. And then pag-resume natin after election ng June, no, ipapasa natin ang third reading, tapos habulin natin sa BICAM. So may pangako siya. Here's what happened now. In the final session, dinribol, sorry for the long story, pero dinribol yan ni Nograles kasi walang go signal ng speaker. Nung bumagsak na ratings niya, nagpag-meeting siya, nag-commit siya. Now, here comes the home stretch. Nung ipinasa siya, the first week, nung last 2 weeks ng Congress, no, on the third reading, again, we all celebrated, no? Hindi kagad nasayang yung isang araw kasi the next day pa, pero celebrate kami. The next week, 3 araw na lang ang natitira. So, we're pressed for time na. So, kinukulitan namin ng Senate, i-actionan nyo ba to? Turns out, yung bill ay hindi nakarating sa Senate, no, on Monday. Kasi nga, natalo si Fidel Nograles sa eleksyon. At dahil natalo siya, missing in action na siya, hindi na nagpakita
Right.
yung mama, no? At dahil din siya nagpakita, nobody was minding yung pag-transmit nitong batas na to. So ang na-transmit lang daw, and sabi sa amin, error, pero syempre nagsususpecha na kami na pwede mo sabihin sabotage ito di ba? So
Mm.
ang tinransmit lang, yung listahan lang ng mga BICAM conferees. Totoo naman yun, yung nareklamo ng Senate. Kaya hinabol pa yun nung Monday. No? Hinabol pa ng hinabol yun, no? Para hanggang sa finally na-transmit. So that left us with Tuesday, Wednesday na lang. Wala pa ring conferees, BICAM conferees ang Senate nung Tuesday. At binuo nila yan, in-announce nila nung hapon na. Ah, at that time, we were already saying, pwede ba i-adapt na lang yung sa Senate kung sa tingin natin, kasi nagsisignal na eh. Sila Joel, nagsisignal na kasi na 100 na lang sila. Ayaw nilang umangat pa. Interestingly, nung lumabas yung 200 pala, backtrack
Wait,
again.
Joel
Interesting,
Villanueva? You're talking about Senator Villanueva?
yeah,
Ah, yeah.
Sorry, Joel Villanueva, no? But interestingly, nung lumabas yung 200, you probably would recall na very interestingly si Senator Zubiri came up with a statement urging his colleagues in the Senate, excuse me, let's just adopt yung House version para wala ng BICAM. O buti syempre, masaya kami doon. Ang ganda noon, no? Adapt na lang natin yung 200. Unfortunately, lumabas yung uh, position paper na Malacanang. That turned things around. Iba na bigla ang tono, no? Ang tono na ay hindi, pinag-isipan namin nitong 100. Bakit tayo biglang mag-agree sa 200? Paliwanag na, kailangan mag-buy ka, no? In the meantime, sa House, oo nga, kailangan mag-buy cam. Ano, even if yung majority na ng members ng Labor Committee sa House, at least as far as we know, ay willing na mag-adjust na lang sa, sige, adapt na natin yung 100. No, ano yan Tuesday na yan. No, and yet, nung lumabas yung position paper ng Malacanang, ininsist ni speaker, hindi, let's log it off sa BICAM. Excuse me muna, sandali
No problem. No, I mean, thank you so much again, Joshua, for that explanation. Kasi sa totoo lang, para mas komplikado pa yata sa impeachment nangyari dito.
Hindi, pero just to finish my point, no,
Go
the
ahead, please go
story
ahead. Yeah, yeah, please, please, yeah.
para kompleto, no? So, imagine mo
Yes, yes,
sinabi
please
ni
explain. Kasi
ah,
hindi lumalabas to eh. I mean,
oo
it's
nga,
very, ano eh,
sabi ang
fog of war.
talagang ano, ang daming maneuvers na ginawa. So, nangako siya, si speaker, nangako siya ipapasa niya to. Ano na, Tuesday na, wala pang BICAM conference ang Senate. Sinabi pa rin niya, pinupush na namin na pwede ba i-adapt na lang yung sa Senate version para the next day, ano na lang, ratification na lang kasi ra-ratify pa di ba? So, sabi niya, nung lumabas yung position paper, sabi niya bigla, hindi, let's log it out, doon tayo sa BICAM. Yon, alam na namin, problematic na yon. Ibig sabihin, 11 hour magba-BICAM, ang laki ng gap. Ngayon, ito talaga yung pinakamatindi. The next day, missing in action si Nograles, remember, right? Abay, biglang naglabas ng statement without consulting yung members niya sa committee. Apparently, basta yun ang kwento sa amin, ha? Walang kinonsult sa kanila. Naglabas, ora-orada ng statement itong si Fidel Nograles at sinabi niya, no, we will not adopt yung Senate version kasi mas maganda yung version namin. Dapat mag-BICAM. Sa tunog, parang tama naman, di ba? Dapat naman talaga mag-BICAM. Pero on an 11th hour, na alam mo na ayaw na nila na gumalaw sa 100, na alam mo na naglabas na ang Malacanang ng political position na talagang patayin na ang wage na ito. Tapos magtutulak ka pa rin ng BICAM, alam mo na that they are setting us for a kill. And that's exactly what happened. And you know what? Ang
Parang
chismis
may
pa nga
drama rin
namin,
pa. So parang ito yung version nila ng dismiss or remand or like,
exactly. At ito yung hindi lumalabas pa, no? Dahil, syempre, wala naman kaming prueba dito, pero ang chismis na natanggap namin, the speaker was actually threatened by Bongbong himself that his head would roll pag nilusot niya kahit itong wage na to, hike na to, kahit 100 lang ito. Lumabas yan na chismis, no? Talagang, sa madaling salita, natakot yung Speaker of the House sa presidente. Here's the interesting point about the whole story. Di ba sa konstitusyon natin, co-equal yan, mga yan? Di ba? Co-equal branches yan
anong
eh.
anong constitution? Parang sui generis.
That's
Lahat ng-
right.
Everything is
That's
sui
right.
generis. Pati yan pala
That's
na
right.
sui generis din pala eh.
That's right, no? We should clarify nga doon, no? Kasi baka ngayon hindi kami pareho ng binabasa na konstitusyon.
Sui generis. Lahat na lang ngayon sui generis. Ibig sabihin, you can do whatever you want. No, no, no. I really
Exactly.
appreciate this, Joshua. No, 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 thank you, by the way. I think that's why, for transparency, Sir Ronald was really insistent na kausapin kita kasi I kept on asking, parang naguguluhan ako, what on earth is happening here? Kasi nagpiping-pong yung dalawa. And I wanted to be fair about it. So sabi niya, kausapin mo si Joshua, he's gonna have really a, or at least, sabi nga ni Lord De Vera, ano yun, chismis dati, kasaysayan ngayon, di ba? So, mamaya kasaysayan itong chismis natin ngayon. But again, we know that we have a president who is out of touch with, just to put it mildly, when it comes to
That's putting it mildly.
I mean, this is the guy who never worked in his life in the way you and I had to work
Yeah.
throughout our adult life. So,
Yeah.
first of all, I think my blind spot talaga siya. Speaking of ideological filter, to put it more Marxist, but I really find this weird because mukhang ang matalino dito is Romualdez because he realizes this is a politically sensitive issue. If not, it could create... We're gonna talk about Mr. Budol, mga Duterte mamaya kasi yan ang problema eh. Pag tinamaan mo yung Team Kadiliman, gagamitin ng kasamaan. Diba? So let's be careful about this. Before we go to Digong and his own Budol version of things, I think with BBM is really a genuine ideological blindness or filter to this because of his own personal upbringing, surroundings, whatever. But it's also a genuine lack of political acumen because as if your version of reality is indeed the case, at least si Martin is smart enough to realize para wala akong pake doon sa mga oligarch friend ni Kuya. Bugbog tayo dito sa elections. Now, because I want to understand is, hindi ba sinabi ni BBM or at least inamin niya na sobrang nag-underperform sila, na may sinasabi ang taong bayan sa kanila, kaya nga meron silang, I don't know, reshuffle, reboot,
Tama.
hanash na lang tawag.
Tama. Tama.
It looks like he does also get what Martin was getting, but the way he's responding to it is really weird. So Ronald has been bashing BBM for having his non-reboot, right? It's like, sino ulit ng tanggal? Parang wala naman natanggal na relevance sa election, di ba? Kasi yung relevance sa election are got issues. Bakit yung technocratic team mo? The same exactly, di ba? But what we're
Mhm.
saying is that parang kulang
At
talaga.
sila pa yung unang sinalba, 'di ba? Napapansin mo,
Yeah,
which is very interesting. Sila nga ang dahilan kung bakit bumabagsak ang ratings ng gobyernong ito.
yeah, it's not like those
Precisely because
oligarchs are gonna give you plus 20% trust rating, right? These are real
exactly,
people who are gonna
exactly.
give you that 20% that you...
That's right. That's right. So anyway, so go ahead with your
No, no, please,
question.
Kyle, I'm just trying to, no, 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 parang kumbaga, in-explain natin yung kahalagahan na itong discussion na to because obviously, as much as this is a discussion about yung mga issue ng ating mga manggagawa, we're trying to also understand anong repercussions ito, or anong sinasabi nito ukol sa political acumen, instinct, or lack thereof of mga tao dyan. Because if you're BBM right now, you're facing an existential crisis, right? on one hand, ayaw mo maging lame duck. On the other hand, yayarin ka ng mga Duterte pag bumalik mo yan. Not to mention, yung mga nasa kabila, basically everyone else na progressives, liberals, they're not fans of BBM too. So, I hate to call it populist, but even if we were to reduce this to a populist move, just for the purpose of pushing up your popularity. Okay, ganun na lang in that demagogic sense.
Yeah, yeah. The
That's
logical
the,
move, the
exactly,
logical move
exactly.
exactly is to raise wages. That's it. That's a logical move. And actually, we thought that we had a fighting chance precisely because he needed a win. Di ba? Parang sa lahat ng anggulo, he needed a win. And this is the best win that they can get. And yet, kita mo naman, ang gusto ko idagdag dun sa analysis mo ng how on what this whole event showed is the fact that talagang ang decision making ay nangyayari lang sa circle ng iilang mga tao at maaring kung sino yung huling nakipag-usap dun sa
Parang Donald
presidente.
Trump to.
Kasi,
Parang sino kausap.
oo, kasi
Medyo similar.
kasi alam, again, isang sa magandang information pa natin. Siyempre, yung mga kongresista natin, naghihintay nga ng signal eh, 'di ba? Pinapaliwanag ko. Alam mo nung crunch time, ang talagang hinihintay nila nagbibigay ng signal ay si Sandro. Eh siyempre, 'di ba? Anak eh, 'di ba? Kaya pagkakausapin siya, tatanungin siya, ano ba talaga? Yun ang nagbibigay ng signal. Sa totoo lang siya nagbigay ng signal na ipasa na natin ito na on third reading. Kaya nagkaroon ng third reading. Now, ang interesting question ay, so kung nagbigay ng signal si Sandro, okay, bakit pinatay ng tatay? Ang ibig sabihin, meron ngang last touch. Diba?
Well, just to be
Uh,
clear, this is the same dad who said wala akong alam dyan sa impeachment na yan, even if Sandro yung una I mean, again, sorry, Joshua, I'm just trying to put this in a bigger context para ma-appreciate ng audience or actually ma-appreciate ng anyone who wants to understand what's going on. Because to be
yeah.
honest, Joshua, you like I didn't vote for the guy. I've been consistent about. I mean, even if I'm a Ilocano, the more I've been critical of the Marcos dictatorship legacy. But I don't want BBM to fail because his failure is that all of us are gonna go down with it, right? And it's just gonna give ammunition to the other side of the equation, which is the Duterte side. Unfortunately, obviously, there's a third force. We can talk about that later on. But going back to this, ano yung okay? For a moment, let's just say, uh, if BBM were listening to us for a moment, sige, tayo na lang uli. What should he do in his last few years? Kasi ito na yung legacy years niya eh. And his trust ratings are really bad. He's getting hammered right and left. Some see him as a lame duck. I don't think that's the case. He's still the president. He still has levers of power. He still can do a lot of good things. Kumbaga, Joshua, if we were to give a constructive advice, if I can use that term, what would it be? Because
I
you
think
never know who's listening.
for, first of all, I think he really needs to grow some spine, no, para talaga desisyonan at aksyonan ang mga bagay na kailangang aksyonan. Kailangan natin pag-usapan talaga ang mga hard reforms. Tama na yung puro pabor na lang sa mga kapitalista at mga kaibigan mo. Kumita na sila eh. 3 taon na yan eh. Pwede ba yun namang mga mamamayan? Para naman pag alis mo, may konti ka namang, ang layunin mo, ibangon yung pangalan ninyo. Di ba yun ang layunin niya? O bakit hindi mo gawin yan ng maayos para siguraduhin mo na pagbaba mo, meron talagang, may legacy ka na pwede ipagmalaki talaga. At anong pwede niyang gawin? Napakaraming simpleng bagay na sa totoo lang, simple, pero alam natin, lalabanan siya ng mga kapitalista. Pero pag dinesisyonan niya, ay talagang magiging legacy niya yon. Halimbawa, ito, yung sahod. Yung spin masters niya ngayon, ang sinasabi, hindi naman against si BBM talaga sa legislated wage increase. Di ba yun na ngayon ang spin ng Malacanang? Kaya ang sinasabi nga namin ngayon, o sige na, okay na, hindi na kami makikipagtalo sa inyo. Patunayan nyo na lang. Kung totoo siya sa sinasabi niya na hindi siya against sa legislated wage increase, we challenge him. Take a sincerity test. Ano yung sincerity test? Sabihin mo ngayon sa amin, ngayon pa lang, hindi pa kami nagpa-file, sabihin mo ngayon sa amin, i-certify mo as urgent ito. Then, meron kaming panghahawakan na salita mo. So that's the first point. Second, bakit hindi mo gawin at patunayan na mas magaling ka kay Digong, bakit hindi mo gawin yung ipinangako ni Digong at pero sinabit niya sa mga manggagawa? Ano yun? Yung tigilan ang contractualization. Di ba yan ang dahilan kung ba't siya binoto ng sangkatutak ng mga manggagawa? Yan yung number one na pangbudol niya sa mga manggagawa. O ngayon, pinakulong niya yung mamang yon. Mabuti naman at dapat lang. Pero kung gusto niyang patunayan na mas magaling siya, eh di sabi pakita niya ngayon sa mga manggagawa na gagawin niya, kaya niyang gawin yung hindi ginawa ni Digong kasi ayaw ni Digong. Remember na, ilusot na namin yung batas na yun. It's not good. It's not perfect. In fact, I don't even like that law. It was so mangled beyond recognition. But still, no, it passed Congress and then it was vetoed for the wrong reasons. Kasi masaya pa ako sana pag sinabi niya na ay binibito ko to kasi hindi nito walang masosolve ang problema masyado. Masaya pa ako noon kasi may pagka-factual yun eh, no? Pero ang sabi niya, hindi kawawa naman yung mga employer. Ba niloloko mo ba kami? Anim na taong labanan nyo o 3 taong labanan yun. Tapos ginanon mo lang. O yan, pangalawang hard reform para sa mga manggagawa kung gusto niya talagang tumulong. And why is that important? That's important because precisely because umaasa kami sa legislated wage increases or sa mga minimum wage increases ng regional wage boards. Eh dahil nga, wala talagang collective bargaining sa ating bansa eh. Eh, paano ka magkakaroon ng collective bargaining, which is a constitutional right, by the way. Pero hindi ka magkakaroon ng collective bargaining kung in the first place, wala kang union. Paano ka magkaka-union kung hindi ka regular? So, enabling right ito eh. No? Isang bagay, pag pinasa mo, maraming mga karapatan ang pwedeng magamit and therefore, workers can actually fend for themselves pag sila ay organized. Experience has shown us, Richard, that even if we have won particular policies, if workers are not organized, there's no one who would assert those rights for them. Yan ang dapat matutunan ng mga manggagawa. And we've seen that again and again. No? May mga batas tayo pero hindi ma-enforce. Bakit? Eh sino magpapatupad? Eh, syempre kung walang unyo, natatakot lumaban ng isang manggagawa kung nag-iisa siya. That's another hard reform. Ano pa? Gusto mo talagang maging totoo na yung mga pinangako sa yung investors ay pupunta talaga sa Pilipinas? Eh di ba ngayon nakita na natin, bagsak ang investments. Tama, hindi pumapasok. Eh yan ang mga pinapangako niya. Magkano na yung ginastos niya kada biyahe. Tapos sabi niya, every time babalik siya, ang dami niyang nahakot ng mga
Pledges.
investment. Oo, puro pledges yun. Katulad din ni Digong, ganun din yun. Wala namang pumasok doon sa pledges masyado nung panahon ni Digong.
Pero
Pero
parang China
bakit?
lang kasi sa kanya.
Eh kahit nga sa China, hindi nga nila naibigay ng kompleto yun, di ba?
Pledge trap nga yan. Bol.
Oo,
Dinola,
oo,
dinor,
talaga.
na Duterte
Hindi,
din siya doon.
hindi, pero you have to understand it from the investor's perspective din. Bakit ka mag-i-invest sa Pilipinas? Eh, tayo isa sa pinakamahal na kuryente sa buong Asia. Why would you invest here? Di mag-invest ka doon sa mas mura, punta ka doon sa Mekong River Delta kasi doon, mura talaga ang kuryente doon dahil meron silang mga hydroelectric dams doon eh, no? So, ang mahal ng kuryente. Bakit sila mag-invest dito? Ang pangit ng ating infrastructure. Ang traffic natin ang tindi, no? Tapos hindi connected ang ating economy. Kaya ang taas-taas ng mga transportation cost mo. Yung mga bagay na yan, pag kinorek mo yan, hindi lang magagaan ang buhay ng mga magagawa. Can you imagine, workers actually have to travel back and forth sa trabaho nila by at least anywhere from about to 2 hours to at most 3 hours, 4 hours, even for some people, even 5 hours a day. A day. Can you imagine the massive amount of time and energy and productivity na nawala dahil lang sa traffic? These are things na pag in-address mo, gagaan ang buhay ng mga magagawa. But more importantly, it would facilitate the flow of more investments. So even from a capitalist perspective, yan yung tamang dapat gawin eh, di ba? Unfortunately, meron ba siyang backbone to do this? Kasi to do that, babanggain niya ang mga oligarchs na nakikinabang sa presyo ng mataas na presyo ng kuryente. Babanggain niya yung mga oligarchs na nakikinabang sa mga tollways na pinatayo para nga makaiwas tayo sa mga traffic. Babanggain niya yung lahat ng mga kapitalista who wanted to keep yung cheap labor policy intact sa ating bansa. Yan yung tanong. No, may backbone ba siya para banggain yan? At yan ang pinakamalaking question mark ngayon.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to yung ano yung risk appetite, if you're willing to 'di ba? You expend yung political capital mo dun sa mga hindi naman veto players, pero yung mga magre-resist to any good change. And in this sense, unfortunately, mukhang he's sacrificing his own political capital because he doesn't want to expend political capital to go against people or not going to help him with his trust rating at all. And this is where I want to go back to Digong because si Digong magaling sa performative ano yan eh. ano yan, yung mga charot lang na kunyari he's good in populist antics in short, no? Yung mga low-hanging fruit, yung mga kunyari pa siyang socialista, etc. just to endear himself to progressives or civil society groups or sa manggagawa. Whether you like it or not, at least it worked. It looks like it's still working if we were to believe that mataas pa rin ang trust rating niya. I mean, although I don't know why should we know about trust rating of someone in ICC detention, but whatever. So, but ano, what is the real score with Digong? Because he at least kasi si BBM parang he hasn't met pa the labor groups. At least si Martin Romualdez yata mukhang ginawa niya. But in the case of Digong, he would go to the activists. He would pretend he's one of them. He would even have some let's say fellow traveler at the very least somewhere in the cabinet position. So, what is the real score with Digong? Or what are the
Well,
lessons rather?
una sa lahat, I have to be honest, no? I think it's Centro. I actually believe it is only Centro that way back in when was that? 2016 nung nanalo siya, right?
Na
Way
hindi
back in
nag-fold kay Digong, gano'n?
it's the only labor center that actually came out with a public statement saying never vote for Duterte, never vote for for Marcos because you wouldn't know where this madman would go pagka
So
nanalo
bakit
siya.
kayo lang? Okay, let's ask the question. Bakit kayo
Well,
lang? Sila?
because we've been working in Davao City for the longest time. No, mayor pa lang siya, kilala na
Alam niyo
namin
na.
siya. Alam na namin,
The
talagang
DNA.
alam namin na mamamatay tao 'yan. No? Imaginein mo yung trade union leader namin, yung head ng transport workers namin doon, na ward leader niya ha, inassassinate. No? Doon sa kanyang syudad. Nung inassassinate, lumapit kami sa kanya. No, ang sabi sa amin, ay, oh, narinig ko yan, pero wag niyong pagbintangan yung pinagbibintangan niyo kasi baka kayong sumunod. Kaibigan niya eh, yung pinagbibintangan namin. No, so ganun talaga eh, no. Kilala namin siya kaya kami lang ang nangahas magsabi, wag niyong iboto yan. Yung iba nga diyan in-embrace. 'Di ba yung KMU niyakap nila ng todo-todo si Digong? 'Di ba pumunta yung mga leaders ng KMU doon sa Malacanang tapos nagfi-fist bump pa kasama si Digong. Grabe 'yon, no? Grabe talaga 'yon. But having said that, bakit ang lakas ng appeal niya sa mga manggagawa? Because he was, as you said, no? Alam niya ano yung sasabihin, alam niya yung kilos niya, ano yung gagawin niyang pagkilos to endear himself. May simpleng-simple lang eh. Sinabi niya, tatanggalin ko ang contractualization in, ano ba yung pangako niya? 3 months, no? Pagkaupo niya. Now, remember this, nung panahon halimbawa nila sila Pinoy, nung tumatakbo sila, when we were negotiating with Pinoy, no, of course, nasa langit na siya ngayon, no? Nung nag-negotiate kami sa kanya at saka kay Mar Rojas, alam mo, una sinabi nila sa amin, no, ano yan, kasi number one sa listahan namin, dapat burahin ang contractualization. Sabi nila, non-starter yan. Think about that, ha? Yan yung nanalong presidente natin na isa sa pinaka-popular, di ba? And yet, sinabi sa amin, no, non-starter yan. Kaya that's the reason why we never endorsed Aquino at not as Centro. Of course, Akbayan endorsed him and embraced him, no? Eh si Ronald nga ang unang sumuporta doon eh, di ba? So sa kanila ayaw nila ng contractualization. But here's a guy who finally said, hindi, mali yan. And every time na-meet namin, every time meet siya ng mga leaders ng trade union movement, walang pag-uusapan kundi yung contractualization. At wala siya sasabihin kundi curses, you know, curse, 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 contractualization, curse, contractualization. Yun lang ang kanyang script. No? And people love that. No? And the people thought that he was real. No? And then gumagalaw, kumikilos talaga, tumatakbo. No? Pati yung Department of Labor, napupuwersa talagang magparegular na mga manggagawa, even if puro listahan lang ng alleged na regular nila, wala naman sila ng patunayan na naparegular nila sa totoo lang. No, and yet, at the end of the day, niloko lang niya talaga yung mga manggagawa, no? So, ito, ibang-iba to eh. Itong kasalukuyang presidente natin, ibang-iba. As you said, hindi nga nakikipag-meeting sa amin. Parang takot na takot sa amin. Parang allergic ba sa labor movement? So finally, nakipag-meeting siya dun sa the only union that actually endorsed him during the elections, di ba? So nakipag-meeting siya doon, but the demand was for him to meet with everyone else, no? Hindi niya ginagawa 'yun. Tapos ay wala siyang do sa itong 19th Congress. I was trying to look back nga eh. Meron bang ginawa itong 19th Congress na ito para sa mga manggagawa? Wala akong maisip eh. Puro puro kalokohan eh ang ginawa, no? Anong natanggap namin dito in the past year lang? Zero budget yung PhilHealth, no? Tapos ngayon, pinatay yung wage hike bill, pinatay yung accountability. Na in the first place, hindi ba siya rin naman na nagtulak niyan? Bakit hindi naman niya gagalaw kung hindi niya man din tinulak yan? So, anong nagawa niya para sa mga magagawa? Wala nga akong makaisip eh. Kaya at least from the working class perspective, I think this is one of the worst congresses I've ever seen.
Obviously hindi ganun ka-encouraging yung at least the past decade or the recent I mean, is there any president that was relatively, I don't know, amenable? I mean, is that Digong? I mean, like, parang lahat sila, ano eh, purgatory levels of circles of ano to eh, di ba? Katrapuhan when it comes to this issue. Which of course, I want to connect to the, like, the final part of our discussion for today, which is, anong gusto natin makita in the coming years? Paano mag-mobilize yung mga progressive groups? Kasi after all, if there's something we saw in the 2025 election is that at mukhang hindi pala tapos ang usapin genuine opposition, right? That, the fight between Duterte's and Marcos's is creating some space, some opportunity. As early as now, you have progressives like Riza Ontiveros, who clearly is way more progressive than all of the individuals we have discussed, saying she's open to run for the president. So there's that sense of ambition, opening, space, momentum. What do you want to see moving forward base dun sa mga kasaysayan na pinag-usapan natin? Or is there anything good from the past that could be a basis for that? Or ano yung mga major successes nyo in your organization that you want to build on? The good stories. Kasi puro tayong mga bad stories so far. Like, let's try to end on a relatively, realistically, cautiously optimistic note, Joshua.
Ako naman, despite the fact na napakahirap pa rin magtayo ng pag-uunyon sa Pilipinas, kahit na tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang red tagging kasi andyan pa rin ang NTF-L, CAC. Um, to be honest, may mga tagumpay naman sa ground, no? Nananalo naman ang mga union, lumalaki naman ang aming kilusan, but it's not growing as fast as it should if we want to build a real base na siyang magiging pundasyon talaga ng totoong oposisyon. Para sa akin kasi, ang opposition, Richard, na hinahanap namin bilang mga manggagawa ay hindi lang yung mga politicians that may have progressive credentials and even progressive track record kung hindi talagang a wider base ng mga tao na constituency ng progressive ideas. That to me is the biggest challenge. And the reason why I'd like to think that the reason why democracy has not really taken root as much as it should have all these years, I look at that as a failure of the collective failure of the progressive movement of the left even, no? If you think about it, kahit sa loob ng ating mga kilusan, kahit sa loob ng labor movement, napakaraming mga unyon na napaka-undemocratic. No, so ako naniniwala ako sa prefigurative politics eh. If you want a democratic society, no, na gusto mo na pupuntahan natin, dapat ngayon pa lang sa pakikibaka natin, dapat demokratiko tayo sa isa't isa. Hindi nga ganoon eh, no? At this point in time. So to me, I think kung gusto natin talaga mag-build ng totoong opposition, we have to think in terms not just of coming up with leaders whom we can promote through elections, no, but also more importantly, we need to make sure na magkakaroon tayo ng mas robust na social movements ng mga peasants, ng mga youth, ng mga workers, ng mga women, no, and all types of working people na organized and who are completely aware that the only way that they can actually have a society that we all aspire for is if we all work for it. No, we can never rely on politicians, even if they are friends. No, I have to tell you, even if they are friends, we can never rely on them because there is a tendency for any politician individually to be eaten up by the system, and the only check that they can have, no, against that possibility is if you have a very strong social movement that can actually check yung powers ng mga kasama natin. No, so importante yung mga political leaders natin na nakikita natin na nagkakaroon ngayon ng space dito sa gitna ng mga banggaan ng malalaking mga political dynasties na to. But equally important na unfortunately I think ay nakakalimutan ng marami, no, ay yung pagtatatag ng mga kilusan na magiging pundasyon ng kanilang pag-assert no ng alternative politics no at think about yung mga karanasan na even ng mga progressive mga labor groups na nagtagumpay halimbawa somehow to transform their society. What happens is that when they have a leader who managed to win national position, take the case of Lula, take the case for example of Cosatu in South Africa. It's very constant. Pag nanalo, nadidemobilize yung kanilang kilusan. Kasi, syempre, pag nanalo siya, kailangan suportahan siya ng marami. At ang tendency, sumama sa kanya sa gobyerno, leaving a wide vacuum dun sa kilusan. That should be, at the very least, should have been watchdogs niya, maliban sa pag-enforce ng progressive politics, but also watchdogs niya pag may error siya. No? The problem is pag na-demobilize ang kilusan, then even yung promises ng progressive politics that we are all aspiring for and we all collectively assign to that person, no, even that could be wasted. So I think that's the real challenge here. So in other words, short answer. There are no shortcuts, kapatid. No, we really need to build power from the ground up.
Yeah, I mean, there's no final victory pagdating sa politika. I think anyone who has an inkling of history, alam nila na you have to struggle for change over and over again. And unfortunately, I think yun ang hindi na-appreciate ng tao. People are looking for a messiah. They're thinking, oh, we get this good person into Malacanang, nachamba natin in this election cycle, everything will be fine. I think there's a lot of magical thinking, a lot of laziness, political laziness, or at least naivety, about how change comes about. Because even if you get the best people into positions of power, andyan lahat yung mga mga buhaya, andyan lahat ng the
Exactly.
tricks of the game, unfortunately. And habang mahirap, at kung tuloy-tuloy na mahirap yung ating mga kababayan, there's always gonna be temptation for vote buying and all sorts of different means of, oppression and repression, unfortunately. So, kaya mahalaga na there's this kind of bottom-up pressure. Now, for me, at the end of the day, the first thing na mahalaga dito is marinig din ng tao yung punto de vista ng ating mga manggagawa or mga tao na involved sa ganitong adhikain. Because unfortunately, people too often hear the side of either employers who tend to be the conglomerates who are making basically the fat cats, or it's the politicians who act in their behalf, speak in their behalf, or basically out of touch, as we implied kanina. So I think that's why, Joshua, kailangan na tuloy-tuloy itong mga discussion natin. And we're hoping na, just as we see the mainstreaming of the kind of progressive agenda that people like Riza bring to the table, we also see mainstream of other socioeconomic rights issues that are relevant. Kaya maraming salamat, Joshua without H. Mata, thank you so much dito sa ating pag-uusap. Sana next time tuloy-tuloy lang with Sir Ronald and the rest of the group. But I really appreciate you sharing your time and yung mga marites na I'm sure will shed light on this confusing other ping-pong pala na nangyayari dito sa gitna ni Boy
Right.
Pilay. Ay, sorry, ni Jesus Cordero and Martin Romualdez. Salamat,
And
Joshua.
thank you for inviting me, Richard.
No,
It was
definitely. Thank
really
you for
fun.
sharing
So,
your time. Apologies kung medyo late in the day, but we have to do more of this. So, salamat, Joshua, and God bless you, and talk to you soon. Maraming
all
salamat.
right.
God
Bye.
bless.